Well, welcome back again to, I think it's session number 10 here. So this will be the 10th day, production day, that we've been on this project. And it's been coming along pretty quickly, I think. In 10 days, we went from a concept piece and setup piece to an actual drawing here that's on the very verge of being ready for cleanup and coloring. So that's a great amount of success, I do believe. We took on the what I considered to be the least complicated material early on in the project, which was the background and such, and then concentrated on the easiest material on the automobile until we got our way down here to where we ended up with the most complicated portion of the automobile. And so all of that is a pretty good way to work. And the pace of our production has also been really good as well. So now on the back of this tire here, I'm going to complete some work we started yesterday down here on the back of this wheel hub right here. And I was looking at it carefully and trying to outline some things. When you have a really complicated thing like this, many times it helps if you just get in there with a pen and outline all of the little parts and try to figure out what it is that you're actually looking at. And so what we're looking at is a portion of the steering device that is attached to the back of the center hub of the rim of the car. And so having looked at it and analyzed it, I was able to determine that we need to put a circle in the middle of all this, at least to make it understandable to our viewer that this is not just some sort of free-floating mechanical equipment that has no purpose. And so just by simply doing that, it makes it look that much more believable. And so in cases where you have a lot of dark material to have to look through, you just got to get in there with a pen or a fine line marker and try to outline it and understand it. Okay, now we can go back to doing some tools here, I think. We can figure out where the middle of this is again and put a dot there, and then maybe scribe a couple of circles representing the rim and maybe the hub of all of this. So I really want to do my very best to get this centered up. And so I got to stand up and look down at it, honestly, even though I'm sitting at my drawing table. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to estimate it. I'm going to put a dot there and then see if that's really appears to be in the middle of it all. And it does. So good. I'm going to take that dot and place it on there. And I'm going to try the outer ring first here in the spinner and see if that looks to be about the right size. And you know, I got to say, it's not bad, because the tire closer to us would be larger than the tire farther from us. The only other option would be to go outside of the spinner to maybe the first, that's only some tough sledding right there, to the very first hole in the, and I don't know if that's even going to work. I want to probably go to my other compass and see how that looks. See, I think that is maybe a little too large. That's a good question. But in the meantime, I can clean this line out of here because that's driving me nuts while I think about it. So continuously, as you can tell, going back and trying to dress up our drawing and get the parts of it that are successful, you know, reinforced, and the parts that are questionable to us figured out all along the way. Now I do have to say, we are making up our own rims here, and you're free to put any kind of rim on it you want. However, I might just, this might be, actually might look okay with the double ring in there, and that way it can kind of split the difference between whether it's the right size or not. And they wouldn't be able to see this on the other side of the car anyhow. So that's potentially a good solution to this. So I think I'm going to go with it. We're going to put a hub in the middle of all of this, of the appropriate size. Let's try this one here and see how it looks. Let's hold the little pattern down there, maybe use a pencil. Let's scribe it in there. And that looks relatively good. Maybe if we go to the next size up, if that gives us a better look, then we'll stay with that. Okay, and the next size up, let's try even maybe the next size up. Now we're starting to get into some large circles here. Let's see how that looks. You know what? I think that whole series of little concentric circles is going to work anyway. Now all I'm going to do is, if you were in my 6th grade class, you remember this. We always called it the pizza slice rim, but that's what I'm going to set this up as. And I want it to kind of look similar to the one over there, so it's going to have wide mags in it. So we got to just keep our wits about us as we draw these things. Because we are trying to duplicate what we see over here in some ways. And also that cutoff space in there. These look like open rims. Is going to be something we will have to change. So we're going to have them as solid rims, I suppose. We'll have to pick out a color from the body of the car to put into the solid portion, the pie shapes in the middle of the mags, in order to make that look right. Okay, let's see how that is looking. That is really quite good. Okay, I'm going to bold some of my lines because I'm feeling pretty good about this. But see, if this were open through there, we would be able to see, for instance, a portion of the grille coming down here. And then we would also, this material here would be blocked by this, but this portion right here would appear up underneath here. And here's the bottom of the car, see? So we would be able to see the bottom of the car in here. And you can see the bottom of the car in here. And that's where this would hook in somewhere, I'm betting. So that it would probably be visible right in here, I'm betting. So we'll just experiment with the way that looks right now. And we might be able to get away with it. If we do, now what I'm noticing too is, see how large that cylinder is, or that circle. So this is probably going to have to be in there behind this wheel hub, is a smaller circle. That's where all of this steering stuff would be at, that we probably cannot see because it's obscured by the tire. Maybe that would even be larger, because it's got to be significantly larger than this. So we just keep on moving that circle out a little bit farther, so that it kind of mimics this kind of curved trapezoidal shape, which is what this is over here, this curved trapezoidal shape in between the mags. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Well, that's convincing, I think. So I'm going to start to bold up my lines here on my tires, and then get to the last thing, which is that grille on the other side, and then clean this up and start the coloring of it. Oh, I gotta put my flames on too, I suppose, don't I? get excited sometimes when you start getting close to the end of the drawing. You know, the hard part, the hard analytical part, which is all of the planning and the actual drafting. Drafting means the drawing part, where you're actually putting the pencil down against the paper and making it happen. That's tedious work, and sometimes taxes your attention span and really wears you down. But after that, I think the coloring is pretty entertaining, personally. Most people find that to be kind of the icing on the cake of making the drawing, is to start adding the color to it. Okay, let me see how that looks. That's coming along just fantastic. So we're going to continue to fold the lines here and then move on to something else. I'm working without a slip sheet today. I really need to be able to see what I'm doing in relation to other things. And that is risky. It is risky. Putting your hands all over your work is not always a great idea. Okay, so having taken care of what I'm looking at here, it looks like we've got the whole front end of the automobile taken care of here, and the sway bars and all of this information and all that steering stuff that's visible over in there. And we are going to move on to our rear tire here. And I've been just thinking about this. I don't know, it looks okay the size it is, but I am going to, I feel the need to really kind of bump it out there a little bit farther, just because it really comes across as a very wide tire in the small picture. Excuse me. Sorry about that interruption. So what I was saying is, I'm thinking that this car's tire needs to have a little more gravitas done to it there, and so meaning it needs a little more. It needs to be a little heavier tire there, and so I think that by bumping it out that way, I think we're going to get that more, let's just say, presence of it. And it's this crescent moon effect right here that was missing from mine. I was having it drawn in almost like it was like a cat food can or a hockey puck, and that was not really the proper shape of it. It's shaped like a crescent moon. So sometimes you just got to really spend some time analyzing stuff, and you'll probably find that there's an answer in there somewhere. And so that's what happened with me, and so I'm pretty satisfied with the decision to put that wider back tire on there. But it was only just a little bit of a minor change, I think. So now that will allow me to get my rim set up on this. Now we have to be really careful about when we make any sort of a change to something like this, and what happens is that it may change the stance of the tire. Yeah, I really got to be careful about that. Okay, now this tire, or the rim on this tire, is going to be, we'll have to match these rims, of course, so it will be a quad mag, very large. This tire is going to be very large, and as a result of that, we will have to draw it as an ellipse, and so a compass isn't going to do us much good in this case, unless there are advanced compass skills where you can make ellipses. However, it would be easier simply to just draw it. So we gotta put it in the middle of this tire, and so I'm erasing my grid lines, but I'm going to set myself up a set of crosshairs right in the middle of this ellipse. And that's how I'm going to know where the middle of the rim should be. So I have to find kind of the middle of this egg shape, and I'm going to split it in half, straight up and down. And I'm going to split it in half the other way also. Okay. Now by doing that, I can estimate how thick I want the rubber portion of the tire to be. And in this case, I'm going to experiment with some dimensions here, curving it. And it's going to be an elliptical or an oval shape in the middle as well, because of the stance of this car. It's slightly turned at an angle to us, and that's why we're seeing it in the manner that we are seeing it in. Something called foreshortening. If you were wearing a ring and you look at the ring straight on, it will appear to be round. But if you turn it slightly in space, it will appear to be elliptical or oval shape. Now here's the thing. You have it, it's still round, it's just your perception of it has changed. Okay, this is doing pretty good. I'm going to look at it on the projection screen. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about that, and the decision to widen the tire as well. I'm going to erase this out, clean it up a little bit better so it's a little more visible, and bold those lines. So okay, now let's see how this gets folded up. This is looking pretty good. Now it's got to kind of match this rim too, so that means it's going to need just a very small inner ring. Now we could really get just serious about some foreshortening in this picture as well, but I think we're going to attempt to keep it simple, because this is I believe the 10th day of this drawing project, and we really need to get it colored. So that's what we're probably going to have to move on to here. Okay, now we've got that much. Now we've got to put our ellipse in the middle again. That's where the hub is at of this. And now this one, it looks like it's not quite in the center of the crosshairs, because our ellipse has just moved a bit as we've been drawing it in. And we've got a couple of small rings there, so what I'm going to do is erase out the middle of my oval shape there a bit, so my line is more fine instead of a bold line. And I'm going to do the same thing with the lightest touch right in the middle of all of that. And in the car over here on the other side, we've actually got a dot in the middle of it, but we'll remove that because that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of logical sense. Okay, so we've got our little double ring there working on both parts of our rim. So I'm going to try to bold that up so it's visible on the camera. Okay. 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 And some more of this. Now, if we apply what we know about this, we're going to put in, we'll have to probably clean it up a bit. So I'm taking out my work from the layout of the rear tire, which is severely foreshortened, and then we're going to add the rim. And I'm thinking all we're looking at after that is the flames, as far as I can tell. I may edit some of my flames. They might be a little bit much. Okay, let's try this. And they've got to be rather large slices of pizza, kind of to match their partners in the front tires, but they will be more elongated in this particular dimension or plane because of the nature of the elliptical appearance of the tire. And so we'll do the same here, and then again I'm trying to mimic the shape on the other side. And we get all that tightened up there, we're starting to get somewhere with it. Okay, now let's see what we've got. It's starting to look pretty good there. Let's hit the focus again and see what we are going to get with a good focus. I think that's good. Let's try this a bit. Okay, I think we're getting a pretty good projection of this. So now, after I've cleaned it up just a bit and gotten some of the smudgy parts of it addressed and cleaned up and just really reinforced the lines that I want to keep. Reinforcing those lines so they don't get smudged out or inadvertently erased. See? Then we're going to have to, just like there's a, I think this is part of the braking system too, the drum brake. So we're going to have to put a, looks like a kind of a double. Now these will be, since this whole thing would be elliptical, if we were to draw it through, and that's not really a bad thing to do, is to, try to see through stuff. And then as a result of doing that, you can, if you draw lightly, you can really get the right markings. And then you can simply go back and erase the parts that, are not part of your structure. Okay, so then I got to take my lines that I discovered there and hold those up. And I'm going to do the same again because I've got a double line on the front of the car, and so we're hopefully using the same types of rims on the front and the back of the car. Okay, so, and then lug nuts, holding all this on, critically important, so the wheel doesn't fall off. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. We've got the front and back, all of that, all the hard stuff done. Let's go ahead and check out our grille right here. And really all it is a series of black lines, which we will, first of all, just check out this thinner area right here just off of the grille. And it looks like it's just over halfway where that little bump out is right there. So I'm going to hold my ruler firmly like this, working backhanded, and hold it down and just strike a vertical line representing that black area in there. And then this line right here is the far portion of the grill, isn't it? No, it isn't. Wait a minute. Okay, there's the stripe. That's the stripe. And this must be this black area in there that I inadvertently just drew in. So see, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. I already had it. I just didn't really fold it up, I suppose. Alright, so that means after that it's just a series of spaced lines. So what we can do is simply do what I was going to do anyway. Just start by using the back side of the ruler. Draw just a series of lines representing the grill. They should be spaced, I'd say, I hate to say like 1/32 of an inch or something, but closely spaced. If you recall from our lecture, we discussed the practice of hatching and cross hatching and curved hatching. The practice of using closely spaced lines in order to indicate that something has a shadow on it. So the closer the lines are to each other, the more heavily shadowed that object appears to be. So this is simply simple hatching, not all the curving back against everything kind, or the crossing over kind. But you can get some profound effects with closely spaced lines. Albrecht Dürer made prints that were so intense like that. Okay, so we've got that. Who would have thought? Here, I'm going to go through and tighten and bold our lines. Now, I've got a couple of things that I want to do. I'm going to address this back here, so I'm going to put a little marking there to tell myself to do that. And also, I'm going to put some flames on my car. But I think I'm going to hold off on these flames. I think they're a little bit too much. And probably these flames too. So I think the flames coming out the front and the flames on the door will be more than sufficient to do what I want to do. Now, do I need to reproduce these exactly? I'm not going to sweat it. I'm simply going to do my best to just draw stylized flames. So, being careful not to smudge my previous work. Okay, I like that. Now, in some cases, I'd go around and outline that too, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to try to keep it simple. Now, I'm going to do something similar over here. And we'll have a little, it's called a lick coming off of there. Okay, now we're going to go from this seam in the door. Let's go like this. We'll do it. Okay, I think I got a little overly aggressive there. Here's what we're going to do. That'll work. That'll work. Okay, now, so I'm going to leave that alone, because if I mess with it too much, I'll probably make a mess of it. I'm going to put another little lick of flame right here. Let's see, this one will be going kind of this way. Maybe one down here too. Okay, and I'm going to address my fence back here, which is giving me fits as well, and I think we might be ready to start doing the, I got to still do my little antenna back there too. So I'm going to do that right now. I forgot all about that. My wife reminded me of that last night when she was looking at this. Okay, comes out from right here, goes all the way up to about right here. Let's put about right there. That's what we're aiming at. Okay, and then okay, gotta get out the fancy sharpener here and fancy eraser and erase everything that's obscured by the aerial. And I might want to go back and touch this up a bit. It's looking a little bit rough. There we go. So, get these all cleaned up. Get that tightened up a little bit. Trying to get some of that drawing out of there. Okay, now that I've got that drawn in pretty well, I'm going to try to clean up anything that's obscured by that flag aerial or antenna. I'm drawing my antenna. Or not my antenna, but my little flag that's on the end of it there, and it looks kind of like that is on the H. Yeah, I got it in the right place, but on here it shows in the reference picture that it's right there in front of the trim work on the house. So, well, in that case, that's an easy one to make and fix so that it matches the ideal work. Okay, now we're just going to throw a little flag in there. It's funny because on this one, see, the flag. So maybe I just didn't bend it far enough. But I'm going to have to live with it. Okay, and we'll have this one going like this. Okay, so this kind of goes down and then back up like this. Okay. Okay, and it's got a little notch cut in it. Okay, we gotta clean that up. Okay, let's see what happens when we dust it. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to go back and tighten up some of my markings that I probably erased a bit. And there's a B on that. I'll go ahead and put that in there, I suppose. Okay, now, after all that, I think I'm going to address my fence back here because I think it's not running level, and that, of course, is driving me crazy. And I'm going to just lower all of this to about I'm going to take all these off and then just redraw them quickly to about right here. Okay, so that's going to require the big eraser here. I kind of bolted that up, but that's life sometimes when you're making a drawing. What I'm trying to do is give it more of that spatial effect where the back fence is farther away from us, and so by doing that I think I'll get a little bit more three-dimensional look to the space of the driveway there. So I'm simply just going to put it in like these and then just try to clean it out so that my fence pickets all line up with each other. That one I've already slung it up there too far, see? Still trying to. So I'm trying to correct my own tendency. And then I'll just simply clean all this up. Above the fence pickets there, the old fence pickets. I could actually take out the number 4 now, I suppose. I don't think we're going to be needing the grid squares anymore, so if you've still got some in there, get them cleaned up and let's get them ready to get this thing colored, because it's going to take us a while. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of my markings back in there. It does give me a little bit more of that spatial effect. That really makes me satisfied with it. And get all this cleaned up, and then I'll go back and bold my lines. I think I've got actually a corner of the driveway also that needs to be drawn in on this before I can call the drawing part done. So let's see what we got here. This does look much farther off in the space, so I'm satisfied with that decision. Now sometimes, you know, you make a bold decision and it just really makes a mess of what your work was pretty good, and then you have to go back and fix it. So sometimes all of these decisions don't necessarily work out like you would think they would. Okay, I'm hoping that this is looking pretty good, and I think it is. Okay, so I guess the whole last thing to do here now is this one little chunk of the sidewalk that sticks out down here in A6, and so that would be an A6. It's about down in here somewhere, it looks like. Just the corner of it seems to be transiting just into here. So we're just going to kind of draw that out a little bit. Oh, and there's our bell. And then this is going to go back like this and disappear. And then it looks like there's a little bit of what appears to be some three-dimensionality to it right there. That is, I believe, just the corner of the sidewalk is all that is out in front of the house. So that's and it's up against the curb. The car is, it looks like. And that is really pretty much it for our drawing. I gotta say, it seemed like a million years ago when we got started on it, but now really the only thing left to do is to clean it up. And so that means going through and erasing carefully any grid lines, any stray markings that might show up through the coloring, whatever your colors were, the numbers of course, and the letters, they've all got to go, and really just carefully clean any markings off of it that you can possibly remove without destroying the artwork itself. It may force you to go back and do a little bit of, you know, light redrawing, but at this point, if you've been keeping up with the instruction here, you should have a really well-developed piece of artwork going by now, at least from the standpoint of doing a class project. And these are, you know, this is it's a long attention span project is what it is, and so you have to know that you're in for some work when you do these kinds of things. However, it's kind of its own reward when it comes out really pretty well. That dot is killing me. So, let me see. See, I'm pretty satisfied with it. So, I'm going to continue cleaning it up, and in our next session, we'll simply start tagging in our color, and we will begin coloring it. You know, whatever your color scheme is, I'm going to color right along with you, doing my particular color approach to it. And I got to tell you, when we started with just this, it seemed like it was a long ways to being to here. But now, here we are. And that's a good looking drawing, and I hope yours is coming along just as well. So I will see you in the next session when we start coloring. Have a nice day.